Hello, my name is Dean Lang, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough through my Battleship program. So the main way I divided this is into two Java projects. So we have main and we have works. So this is mainly for organizational purposes. Works is basically all the methods to manipulate the grids that we will go into right now. So I have four grids. This first grid is player one's grid, grid one. This one is player two's grid. And this is the one where you initially put the ships for each player. And grid game one is basically player one's guessing board. So if you hit a ship that is on player two has placed, then there will be a H for hit, or else if it's water, it will be an M. And the same thing goes for grid game two, except it's player two guessing on player one's ships. All right, so let's start with print grid. And by the way, the game in the beginning is just the name of, getting the methods from the works class. So print grid looks like this. It basically prints the guidelines, so it's easier for the user to read, along with every single grid point, and it updates as the code goes on. So we have these 5 place ship methods, and they're each for the different ships that you've given us. So let's look into that. So first of all are the parameters. This is the grid, either player 1 grid or player 2 grid. String S, that will be the name of the ship, int I is the length of the ship, and string S2 is the replacing the dash that's supposed to be water with, C for carrier, B for battleship, etc. So the first thing I notice here is Boolean true, and Boolean test is equals true, and this is for the do while loops. So this is a very big do while loop, and what this does is make sure that something passes all these requirements of having a valid input, being the same size as the length of the required ship, and stuff like that. So let's just walk through it. First, it asks if you want the ship to be vertical or horizontal. So then it asks for please enter coordinates to attack the ship, front of the ship, and then the back of the ship. So this is temporary, just to make sure these are valid inputs. If not, it just tells the code to do it again, asks the user again until it prints a valid one. And next, all right, this is divided into 2 if it's vertical, or if the user asks for it to be horizontal. So we have if a certain coordinate is not equal to dash, which is water, that means that it has to be a ship, because there's no water, it has to be something already that has been there. So a ship is already placed, ask the user to retry, great. Then we also have a out of bounds exception. So this is used with the try and catch method. And here we have if the user wants it to be horizontal, which is pretty much the same thing, asking the same things if the coordinates match the same length, and if a ship is already placed there, out of bounds, that type of stuff. So now that we know that these coordinates pass all these tests, it's impossible for a test equal to false, so therefore it passes the do while test, and it makes the row and columns for real, and it puts them onto the grid, and then it prints the grid. All right, let's go back into the main Java. So once the user does all 5 of these, player 2 does the exact same thing. We don't need to go over that. And then we start with the threads. Now, these are runnable threads, and they utilize something called lock, and it is right here. And what this lock object does is it is used to aid in the synchronization of both threads. So let's see, this while loop, it ensures that the thread goes back and forth until the game is finished. And the synchronization lock line over here ensures each thread completes the block of code for switching to the next thread. And in this loop, we have place guess, so it places a guess, and this checkboard function. So we're going to look at both of those functions right now. All right, place guess. All right, parameters. This is the guessing board. So back over here, this is like grid game 1 and grid game 2. It would be that. And then we have the opponent's board, which, keep in mind, is anonymous for the other player. And then we have string play, which is just saying, oh, is it player 1 or player 2? So let's walk through this. Yeah, like player 1, player 2, like I said. Again, we have Boolean test equals true. So this starts the do while loop, which lasts from here to here. It asks the user to enter coordinates to attack, and it makes sure that this input is valid. It's very similar to the place ship function. And then once we know that these chords are valid, it makes them for real. And then it checks if an X is in this row and column. So that means that there's already a guess there. So then it would ask the user again. And then if there is water, that means, oh, there's no ship there. So then it would be a miss. Then if it's anything else, so the reason why I say anything else is it could be C for carrier, B for battleship, other such letters, then it would be a hit. And yeah, it passes all the tests if no exceptions occur. And then there are 5 check ship methods for each different type of boat. So let's go to check ship to see what it's about. It takes in the opposing board, the opposing player's board, a letter, so C, that type of stuff, the length of the ship, and the name of the ship. So this is saying for each coordinate in the grid, if an instance of this letter, aka ship, exists, +1. So this is saying if X is equal to 0, that would mean that there is no instance of the ship. So everything has been targeted by the player, so it has been sunk. So you have sunk the something, whatever, cruiser. And then let's go back to main, because at this point, we'll check the last method later. Oh, right, okay, so we were doing threads, and now we have to check the checkboard method. All right. So what this method is basically a final, making sure the entire board is clear. So for each coordinate, if there's no instance of water or no instance of a hit, then X plus equals 1. So this means if X is equal to 0, this is saying, oh, it's either water or you got all of them. So if X is equal to 0, that means you got all of them. And if not, you're still going. All right, let's go back to the thread. Again, like I said, if it's true, the player 1 wins and the entire program just stops. If not, though, which is mostly the case, we go to lock.notify. And what this does is it notifies the other thread that is finished executing. And then we try for lock wait, which it puts the thread to sleep until the other thread is done. And then it comes with this catch exception, because without it, it breaks. And thread 2 is more or less identical, but the instances of grid 1, grid 2, etc. are flipped pretty much for each player. And then down here, they are started, thread 1 first, player 1 first, and then player 2. So now I am going to play a game of Battleship. Okay, so here's the print grid function in action. And let's try putting a horizontal ship. Okay, for this case, it's a carrier. Let's try from A7 to A11, which is out of bounds. All right, the ship is out of bounds. All right, let's try a vertical ship. Let's just put in the invalid input. So instead of A1, let's do 1A to, A5. Input invalid. So, all right. Let's just put the carrier right here. All right. For the battleship, since the length is 4, let's try going for a length of 3, spanning from B4 to B6. Oh, coordinates do not match the size of the ship. All right, let's try again. Let's do B4 to B8. Shoot, that's too long now. Okay, does not match the size of the ship. Finally, let's do B4 to B7. Perfect. All right, let's just fill in the rest of the ships now. Let's go from A10 to C10. Have some out here. F3, F5, and let's do another vertical one. Destroyer, G8 to H8. All right, so that's our board, and player 2 board. For simplicity of the video, let's speed it up. Let's just go for a very simple method of no errors and all on like one block. So it would be C1 to C3. Cruiser would be D1 to D3. And destroyer would be E1 to E2. Great. So let's assume we're player 1 and we can't see the above. Let's go for G9. Miss. Yikes. All right, player 2. To be honest, I forgot what I put, so this would be a random guess. Let's go for B3. Miss again. All right. Let's do A1. Hit. All right, the reason I put everything in the top left corner is so I can just blast through, so I can show you that the program stops when all these ships are down. I'll do that. Also to show that it shows the message that these ships, a certain ship has fallen. Okay. See, look, we have sunk the carrier. So now, all right, what if we go on a coordinate that we've already guessed? So A1, already guessed here. All right, B1. All right, hit, great. And then we just continue on. And now we have sunk the battleship as well, which is great. Let's go. All right, and now the submarine has sunk. I didn't realize we even have a hit here. All right. Oops, I already guessed here. Wow, I didn't even notice that. I miss. Okay, great. Now the cruiser is sunk, and now we have one more, which is the destroyer, which is coming right up. And wow, player 1 wins. We win. All right. And now we move on to the second part of the project, where instead of having a manual player 2, it is automated using the random method. So everything in this main and work class are more or less the same, except for a couple key things. So, namely, it is the method of auto ship. So let's go to works. By the way, all these print grid, place ship, place guess, check ship, and check board methods are unchanged. It is only these auto ship and auto guess ones that are made. All right, so it takes a grid, either player 1, or sorry, no, it takes player 2, because it's the only one being automated, the length of a ship, and the character of the ship. So, as I said previously, C for carrier, B for battleship, etc. So we import random from up here, and instead of having a prompt for a user to say horizontal or vertical ship, we have it just generate a number between 0 and 1. So if random equals 0, then it's vertical. And we also command the computer to get a random integer between 0 and 10 minus I. Now what this says is, so let's take, for example, the carrier. Once we subtract it from its length, I, it is impossible for it to go out of bounds. So we don't even have to worry about that being an exception. And column in this scenario is just the same thing, because vertical ships are on the same column. And also row 2, the second coordinate is just the initial coordinate, the start of the ship, and added its length, 5 in this case. All right, so this is just testing if a ship has already been placed there. So it's saying if it's not dash, aka water, then the test is false. Again, with the do while loop and the Boolean test equals true, like I mentioned previously. So if it's not vertical, then it's got to be horizontal. So it's pretty much the same thing, except row and column are pretty much switched. And it does the test if a ship has already been placed there. And if no exceptions are found, then we move on. And these decisions are finalized and put into the grid. Okay, let's move back to main. So again, with the threads, not a lot has changed. And the only thing that has changed is thread 2, again, the automated player with auto guess instead of place guess. So let's look at auto guess. The parameters are the guessing board and the other player's board, or where they place their ships. So again, we import random. And again, we have the Boolean test equals true for the do a while function, making sure the coordinates pass all the test cases. So this is saying let's start with this. It just picks a random coordinate in the 10 by 10 grid. And this is just saying if this coordinate already has an X, that means it's been previously guessed before, so we gotta restart. Anyway, this logic over here is the exact same as in place guess, place guess. And then they're finalized. All right, and again, everything else about the thread and this stuff is the exact same. So let us run it. Okay, so here we are back again, making our ship. So, let's just make our basic board. Oops, now it's an accident, but at least it shows that these test cases work. Okay. Actually, just in case I didn't showcase this in the first main class, let's try putting it in between C1 and C3. So there'd be a collision and it would not place. Yeah, ship has already been placed here. Great. So let's redo that. C3 to C5. Perfect. And final ship. G2, G3. All right, so you may notice that player 2's board has already been printed, and that's because of this thing right here, Now, I did this for the only for the simplicity of the video, because I want this video to be as short as possible, and I am not randomly guessing from a 10 by 10 grid. So if I delete this, absolutely nothing would change. It just shows the randomized functions in place, and judging from this, it worked. All right, so once again, I'm going to play the game out. Actually, I'll take a photo of this so I have it next to me at all times. Okay, great. And also, it is showing that the automated player is also just randomly hitting, or missing, in this case hitting, our ships. So that's great. Yeah, and they missed. All right. As you can see, that was a lucky hit from the automated player. And it's disappeared like we have sunk the carrier, just like from last time. We also have sunk the cruiser just now. And we have sunk the battleship now. And we have one. A little bit unfair, but for the video, it needed to be sped up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this covered everything in these 600 plus lines of code, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you.